Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
A dead animal from the Bible came into my house. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, Like Diamonds, back again with Salt Strong Unchurched. And yes, that headline is accurate. It's not just clickbait, although of course I always try to come up with creative headlines so that you will listen to this one. But really, really fascinating past week and weekend. And I'll share the whole story with you. So I believe I started mentioning it on the last episode that there just feels like there's been a lot of chaos. Uncertainty would be a word I think that all of us can probably use in today's vernacular with, we got an election right here around the corner, and it just seems like everything's just kind of crazy and no one's agreeing on anything. And with all the two hurricanes, obviously that impacted our business quite a bit. And, we had some personal damage. And the roof came off the office again, and we had windows shattering right here where I'm recording this podcast studio here in this room. That was where the window shattered and the glass all came in and water and just a lot of stuff, right? So it slows the business down. It's a little bit chaotic, and that creates uncertainty with employees and everyone else. Like, hey man, it's slow, or do we need to come in this week? And so we had just a couple of employee issues, and one person actually quit, which we don't have many people quit at Salt Strong over the years. I can count them on my hand over a 10-year period of time. And so it was something that was someone who was decently high up, all of a sudden got plucked off by another company. And then all of a sudden our website went down for a couple of days straight, just kind of out of the blue. And it just kind of felt like I couldn't catch a break. And it felt like, even though the hurricanes had already passed, it felt like I was still in a storm. Our whole team felt like, our leadership team certainly felt like that. We felt like we were just constantly putting out fires, and that nothing was getting solved. It was really, really frustrating. And so C12 is the kind of a Christian leadership group that I've been part of for over 5 years. And that's real important to me. And all that being said, so is my business and family and all the other stuff. And so just all the craziness going on, I was going to skip it. And, they obviously prefer that you show up to the meetings, and you pay to show up to the meetings. So it's a good thing to show up to the meetings, and they're always really good. And all this other stuff, the website was still down. And so I was like, I'm probably just going to have to skip it this month. And yet someone was telling me to go, even with all the chaos. I don't know if you ever hear like you're just hearing from God, like just to go, get away for a day. It's not going to be the end of the world, and go there and see what's in store for you. That's kind of how I felt God was speaking to me, and so I did go, and glad I did. So in C12, they have a kind of a devotional and some ministry stuff. We basically have topics. And what's interesting is these topics are all picked, January or really December of the year before. So what we just read in October was picked in December of the prior year, right? It makes sense. It's no different than a TV show or anything. They're planning way, way, way in advance for the content, right, that they're going to be sharing that month. And according to C12, it rarely, if ever, has changed. So what we were reading was stuff that was picked out almost a year before, right? Which is pretty wild. How I've mentioned before, so many different times God has spoken to me through a book or through a text or through something I just happened to read that day. And especially when I share with you what I'm about to share, how wild it was that this stuff was picked out that far in advance, because it was exactly what I needed to hear, maybe what you needed to hear, because I know it resonated with everyone in that room. And so right off the bat, the very first paragraph is talking about resting in the depths of divine love, especially during storms. The word storm was actually used multiple times in this devotional. So I'll kick it off with Psalm 23, very popular one. And we really spent a lot of time diving into what it means. Then I'll share with you the animal that came into my house. So the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So to summarize this, in the very first sentence says that the Lord is my shepherd. So this is comparing us to sheep. Okay, so the Lord is the shepherd. We are the sheep. Even the oil, you anoint my head with oil. That is something that a shepherd does to sheep to keep away all the different bugs and everything. So if you ever seen how shepherds care for sheep, that is actually something that shepherds do to sheep, is they cover their head with oil. And here's what's really interesting, and this was kind of the funny piece of it, is Kevin described sheep are essentially just rotisserie chickens walking around with four legs in a pasture. Like everything wants to eat these things. They're tasty. And yet sheep, even though they don't really have a good defense mechanism, right? Like it's not like they're crazy fast. It's not like they can get up on two legs like a kangaroo and punch or really kick that hard. They don't really have sharp teeth. They're not really good fighters at all. Like they can barely defend themselves yet. And everyone wants to eat them because they're like rotisserie chickens walking around on four legs. Yet they don't fear as long as one of two things are happening. All right, this is the really, really important piece of it. So sheep, once again, very tasty. Everyone wants to eat them. Everyone wants to get to them. A lot of enemies, essentially. And yet they never fear as long as one of two things are in their lives. Number one is that they can see their shepherd. And number two, or they can hear their shepherd. So as long as they can either visual contact or hear the shepherd's voice, they have no fear ever. Isn't that interesting? So once again, as long as they can either see and have some sort of visibility to know that shepherd is nearby or hear the shepherd, sheep do not fear any of the other things that are out there, any of these enemies. And the analogy, obviously, is that we are the sheep and God is our shepherd. And as long as we can either see and feel his presence or hear his voice, we too shall have no fear. And as he was describing all that, we talked about the word storm multiple times in this devotional here, that down below, and down below, I'm actually looking at it. But it was wild how we all kind of felt like, and I especially did feel like I had just been in multiple storms, from the hurricanes to the storm we were feeling at Salt Strong. And I was like, wow. And here I was at this C12 because I had heard from God. I felt like I'd heard from God. Like there was this weight on my shoulders that, hey, you really need to go to C12 today. It was almost like, hey, Knucklehead Joe, there's a message I want you to hear. You need to be there. And essentially what we all got out of it, and we started kind of talking about it and deciphering this, and the phrase like having peace during storms is critical. And that God's love in general is what this is saying, is a source of just peace and rest, and that we can find true peace and true rest in him, and that we shouldn't fear, that he is in control, that he does have a plan. And yes, these storms are here for a reason, and he will make good of them for good people, and that there always is a plan. And ultimately, God just doesn't make mistakes. And that's something that sticks with me. I've used it on this podcast multiple times, that just God doesn't make mistakes. And so many times we get caught up in the little small storms and think there's a mistake. And yet, as long as we can go back to either seeing the Lord, right, or hearing from him, we shall have no fear. We might walk through the valley of the shadow of death, but I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, as a shepherd, they comfort me. This is really, really powerful. So here's where it gets crazy. So last weekend was my birthday weekend. And we had my parents and two brothers and Luke's spouse, and of course my wife and kids all came over Sunday evening, and we just cooked out and hung out. And normally, I'm not at my age, I'm not big into gifts. I got everything I need, and I told everyone don't bring a gift. And Luke and Lindsay listened; they didn't bring a gift, which was great. My mom's like, "Hey, I got you something random. It's something that you should have received 35 years ago." And so that was on the little card. It was in a pretty big box. And I was like, all right, what should I have received 35 years ago? She was like, yeah, it was something that you were supposed to get 35 years ago, and something that we had not talked about, by the way. Okay. And this is 2 days after this meeting at C12. So the meeting at C12 was all day Friday. This is now Sunday. And I'm sitting here, got the whole family looking at me. And then she's like, can you guess it? I was like, honestly, I have no idea. And I never would have guessed it in a million years. I open up the box, and I promise you, Luke was there. Obviously, it's in my house right now. It is a 100% genuine sheepskin, a sheepskin. And my mom had no idea about the C12 thing, right? And long story short, I got goosebumps when I didn't connect it at first, right? Because I was like, shit, what the heck? So there was a place called Lazy W. It was run by these two great Christian people, and it was a summer camp in our area in Central Florida. And every summer they would have this multi-week summer camp, and every year, I think after 6 years was like the max. Every year you got something. From like this tribal stick or whatever to spurs was like the fourth or fifth year. And the final thing, meaning if you made it every year, it was basically a gift, like something you would earn if you made it every single year. The very final year, you got your own sheepskin. This is all done on a big farm. And so that was what everyone wanted to get. Like you were in town. If you had the sheepskin, like you were it. And yet they had some issues with insurance or whatever, and they had to shut the camp down, which would have been like kind of my senior year. So I never got my sheepskin. That was 35 years ago. So that's why my mom, I guess I had brought it up a while back, like, over a decade ago, but I never got that sheepskin. And she remembered that and just happened to present it to me 35 years later, even though we hadn't talked about that in who knows how long, at least a decade. It hadn't even occurred to me, honestly, or even I never would have guessed it in a million years. And I was just like, wow, how awesome is God? He's literally telling me I'm in the middle of a storm. Last week, I was so stressed out. I remember I woke up one morning at 2 a.m. and started working just to try to catch up on everything. I was in like the ultimate storm, and God was saying, hey, you knucklehead, have some peace. Have some rest. I am with you. It gets me to the C12, puts this right in front of my face. I mean, it's the first thing we talked about. Had I walked out early, I wouldn't have missed this. It was if I just showed up for the first hour, it was impossible for me to miss this. It was the first thing that we did. And then he brings the sheep into my house after a 35-year wait. It was crazy. I got emotional. I got goosebumps. I was like, whoa. And I still haven't told my mom about this yet. I'm obviously going to share this with her. But how wild is that? God just basically saying, hey, Joe, hey, I got your back. Just trust in me. Believe in me. Listen to me. Open your eyes to me, right? That's all the psalm is saying, right? You shall have no fear as long as you can open your eyes up to me, believe in me, and follow me, right? Because that's what sheep do. They're following the shepherd. The shepherd's never behind the sheep, right? If you study how shepherds work, they might have their helper behind, kind of moving them, but the shepherd's always out in front. The shepherd is always out in front of the sheep, so the sheep can hear, right? Hear their voice and sense and see the shepherd. So God's saying, hey, I'm right out here in front of you. I'm already past the storm, Joe. Just keep walking. Just keep following me, listening to my voice. I don't know. It was a really, really special gift in way more ways than my mom had intended. She was just trying to, do something kind of fun. But yeah, the fact that she got 100%, true sheepskin that's now in my house. Just such a good memory of this. And of course, a good memory of Lazy W. the camp. But wow, how so cool. As an adult, I never thought I was going to get emotional over getting a sheepskin for my 46th birthday. But anyhow, I just wanted to share that with you guys. If you are going through a storm, which many of us are or feel like we are, I hope you can remember that. Remember that Psalm 23, pull that thing up and read it and reread it. It is saying, have peace during a storm. Look up to God, listen to God, follow God, follow Jesus. He is our shepherd, and I shall not want. Should not have any concerns about enemies. I mean, the whole thing just, wow, it gave me goosebumps reading it and now rereading it. And surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I should dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Such a great psalm. So put that up first, print it off. Get yourself a sheepskin if you feel called to. And I'm just kidding there, unless you really, really want one. They are really nice and soft. But yeah, just a great reminder for me. Have it in my room now, and it's just something I can look at every day. And anytime I'm having one of those just bad days where you feel like you're in a storm, you feel like everything's going against you, it's just a good reminder. Turn to God. Listen for his voice. Look to him. And you shall have peace, you shall have rest. So hopefully this was an impactful one to you, a good reminder that God is with us, even through some of the worst storms. And if you have any aha moments or have anything you want to share, I'd love to hear from you. Love getting emails every Sunday and even throughout the week. Joe@saltstrong.com is my private email. Love you guys, and I'll talk to you on the next episode.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul.